Jenny Parker thought she knew everything about the customers who came through her checkout line at Value Mart. The fancy ones with designer clothes, the budget shoppers counting every penny, the ones who belonged, and the ones who didn't. So when an older woman in worn clothes tried to pay with a premium credit card, Jenny couldn't help but make a sarcastic comment. After all, people should stay in their lane, right? What Jenny didn't realize was that some people's lanes were much wider than they appeared, and her thoughtless moment would soon come full circle when she discovered exactly whose signature was on her paycheck. Jenny Parker's alarm clock blared for the third time. She groaned and slapped the snooze button again. 5 more minutes wouldn't hurt. But when she finally opened her eyes and saw the red numbers on the clock, she jumped out of bed. "No, no, no!" Jenny yelled. It was 7:45, and her shift at Value Mart started at 8:30. She was going to be late again. She rushed to the bathroom in her tiny apartment. The hot water wasn't working. Again. Jenny splashed cold water on her face and brushed her teeth quickly. No time for a shower today. She pulled her long brown hair into a messy ponytail and didn't bother with makeup. Her stomach growled as she threw on her blue Value Mart uniform shirt and black pants. No time for breakfast either. Maybe she could grab something from the break room if Mr. Peterson wasn't watching. Her boss was strict about everything, especially eating on the job. Jenny looked around her small apartment. It was just one room with a bathroom and a kitchenette in the corner. The rent was cheap, but it was still hard to pay each month. Bills were stacked on her tiny table, most of them stamped with red past due warnings. "Someday," she whispered, to herself, looking at the university brochure on her table. She was halfway through her business degree when the money ran out. Now, those student loans were just another bill she could barely pay. Jenny grabbed her purse and keys and ran out the door. Outside, the early spring air was chilly. She hurried to her car, an old blue Honda that had more rust than paint. "Please start," she begged, turning the key. The engine made a terrible grinding noise, but finally rumbled to life. Jenny let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. The traffic was bad, as usual. Jenny drummed her fingers on the steering wheel and checked the clock every few seconds. 8:10. 8:15. 8:20. Come on," she muttered as she sat at a red light. Her car made a strange clicking noise that worried her. She couldn't afford any repairs right now. The light turned green, and she pressed the gas pedal a bit too hard. The car lurched forward. The Value Mart parking lot was already full when Jenny arrived. She had to park far from the entrance. As she rushed toward the big sliding doors, she checked her watch. 8:27. She might just make it. Inside, the store was bright and clean. Morning light streamed through the big windows at the front. The smell of floor cleaner and the soft background music greeted her. Value Mart sold everything from groceries to clothes to electronics. It was the biggest store in their small town of Millfield. Jenny rushed to the back room and grabbed her name tag from her locker. She clocked in at exactly 8:30. "Cutting it close again, Parker," said a stern voice behind her. Jenny turned to see Mr. Peterson, the store manager. He was a tall man with thinning hair and small glasses that sat low on his nose. He always wore a crisp shirt and tie, and his name tag was perfectly straight. "Sorry, Mr. Peterson. Car trouble," Jenny explained. He raised an eyebrow. "Every day?" "I'll be earlier tomorrow," Jenny promised, the same thing she said almost every morning. "Mr." Peterson sighed. "Register 5 today. We've got a busy day ahead." He walked away, checking something on his clipboard. Jenny hurried to her assigned register. As she was setting up her drawer, her co-worker Tina came over. "Morning, sunshine," Tina said, with a big smile. Tina was always happy, no matter what. Her curly red hair bounced as she moved. "Rough morning?" "The usual," Jenny replied. "No hot water, no breakfast. Almost late." "Here," Tina said, handing her a granola bar from her pocket. "I always keep extras for you." "You're a lifesaver," Jenny said, quickly unwrapping it and taking a bite. Her stomach thanked her immediately. "Did you hear about the new credit card?" "Push?" Tina asked, leaning on the counter. Before Jenny could answer, another voice cut in. "I've already signed up 3 customers this week." It was Bradley, walking by with his usual smug smile. Bradley was tall with perfectly styled blonde hair. He always bragged about his sales numbers. "It's only Tuesday," Tina pointed out. Bradley shrugged. "Some of us are just naturally good at our jobs." He smiled at Jenny. "Maybe I can give you some tips sometime." Jenny rolled her eyes as he walked away. "I can't stand him," she whispered to Tina. "Forget him," Tina said. "Oh, customers are coming in. Better go to my register. Lunch break together?" "Definitely," Jenny replied. As Tina walked away, Jenny straightened her name tag and put on her customer service smile. It wasn't real, but it looked good enough. The first customers of the day were heading toward the registers. Jenny sighed quietly. Another day. Another $1. Barely enough dollars, if she was honest. Scanning items, taking money, giving change. The same thing every day. She was tired of it all. Tired of waking up late. Tired of her broken-down car. Tired of struggling to pay bills. Someday, things would be different. Someday, she would finish her degree and get a real job. Someday, she would be the one in charge. But for now, she plastered on her fake smile as the first customer approached. "Good morning. Did you find everything you were looking for today?" Jenny asked in her cheerful work voice, pushing all her worries aside for another busy day at Value Mart. "No, I couldn't find the organic cereal," grumbled the woman in front of her. She had a cart full of healthy foods and workout clothes. "I'm sorry about that," Jenny said, still smiling. "We should be getting more tomorrow." As Jenny scanned the items, she noticed the woman's designer purse and sparkly diamond ring. In her head, she thought, of course she wants organic cereal. Probably drives a fancy car, too. When the woman left, Jenny turned to Tina at the next register. "Did you see that purse? Probably cost more than my rent," she whispered. Tina giggled. "And did you smell her perfume? I bet it wasn't from our beauty aisle." This was their game. They made up stories about customers based on what they bought or wore. It made the long hours pass faster. Next came an older man buying frozen dinners and cat food. "Lives alone," Jenny whispered to Tina when he left. "Probably talks to his cats all day." "That's Mr. Wilson," Tina whispered back. "His wife died last year. He has 3 grandkids, but they live in another state." Jenny felt a twinge of guilt. In Millfield, population 12,000, most people knew each other. It was easy to forget that these customers had real lives and real problems. The morning rush turned into the lunch rush. Jenny's feet already hurt. A young mom struggled to keep her 3 kids in line while buying groceries. Jenny helped her bag everything while the mom searched for her wallet in a diaper bag. "Thanks so much," the mom said, looking relieved. "No problem," Jenny replied, actually meaning it this time. By 1:30, Jenny finally got her lunch break. She and Tina sat in the small break room eating sandwiches from home. "I can't believe we still have 5 hours left," Jenny sighed, rubbing her sore feet. "At least it's busy." "Makes the time go faster," Tina said, always looking on the bright side. Jenny pulled out her phone and opened the website for Millfield Community College. She scrolled through business classes, calculating costs in her head. Still thinking about going back? Tina asked. I need just 6 more classes to finish my degree, Jenny explained. But that's still like $4,000 I don't have. You'll get there, Tina encouraged her. You're smart. Maybe you'll be running this place someday. Jenny laughed. No thanks. I have bigger dreams than Value Mart. Just then, Bradley walked in, talking loudly on his phone. Yeah, I'm on track to be assistant manager by summer, he boasted. Peterson basically relies on me to run the place. Jenny rolled her eyes at Tina. After lunch, the afternoon dragged on. Jenny's fake smile started to hurt her cheeks. A teenager dumped a pile of coins on her counter to buy candy. A man argued about an expired coupon. An elderly woman paid with a check that took forever to write. At 4:00, a rush of after-work shoppers filled the store. Jenny scanned items faster, trying to keep her line moving. She noticed what people bought. The businessman with frozen bachelor meals, the gym teacher with protein bars, the young couple buying baby supplies. They all have stories, she thought to herself. Some she knew, being from Millfield all her life. Others she just guessed at, usually getting it wrong. At 5:30, Mr. Peterson's voice came over the store speakers. Attention Value Mart employees. Please remember tomorrow's morning meeting at 8:00 sharp. We have an important announcement and a special visitor coming to the store this week. All staff must attend. Jenny and Tina exchanged curious looks across their registers. Special visitor, Jenny mouthed. Tina shrugged. The last 2 hours of Jenny's shift felt endless. Her back ached from standing all day. When 7:00 finally came, she closed her register and counted her drawer. Everything balanced perfectly, as usual. In the break room, she clocked out and grabbed her purse from her locker. Any plans tonight? Tina asked as they walked to the parking lot. Just ramen noodles and maybe some Netflix, Jenny replied. I'm too tired for anything else. Same, Tina said. See you at the meeting tomorrow. Don't be late. I'll try, Jenny promised, knowing she probably would be anyway. As she drove home in her noisy car, Jenny thought about the special visitor coming to the store. Probably some corporate big shot who'd never worked a register in their life. Someone who had no idea what it was like to be on their feet all day, dealing with grumpy customers for minimum wage. They'll walk around for 5 minutes, say everything looks great, and then go back to their fancy office, Jenny muttered to herself. Little did she know how wrong she was, and how much that visitor would change her life forever. The next morning, Jenny's alarm went off at 6:30. She was determined to be on time for the meeting. She hit snooze only once. After a quick shower, with actual hot water today, she ate a piece of toast and put on her freshly washed uniform. Her car started on the first try, which she took as a good sign. Jenny arrived at Value Mart at 7:55, feeling proud of herself. The parking lot was fuller than usual for this time of day. Everyone wanted to be on time for the special meeting. Inside, the break room was packed with employees in their blue shirts. Jenny spotted Tina waving from the back row and hurried over to her. You made it, Tina said, sounding surprised. Don't act so shocked, Jenny replied with a smile. Mr. Peterson walked in at exactly 8:00, followed by a woman Jenny had never seen before. She wore a dark suit and carried a tablet. Her name tag said Regional Manager. Good morning, everyone, Mr. Peterson began. Thank you all for being on time. He glanced at Jenny with raised eyebrows. As you know, we have a special visitor coming to our store this week. But first, Ms. Roberts has an important announcement about a new company policy. The woman in the suit stepped forward. Good morning, Value Mart team. I'm here to introduce an exciting new program that's being rolled out across all stores. Everyone sat up straighter, curious. Starting today, "We're launching the Value Mart credit card program," Ms. Roberts continued. "These aren't just any store credit cards. They offer special discounts, points for purchases, and other benefits for our loyal customers." She held up a shiny blue card with the Value Mart logo. "Each store will be competing to sign up the most customers. The top 3 stores in the region will receive special recognition from corporate headquarters. And," she paused for effect, "the top-performing employees will receive cash bonuses." A murmur of excitement spread through the room. Jenny perked up at the word bonuses. "For each customer you sign up, you'll earn $5, Ms. Roberts explained. "The employee with the most sign-ups each month will receive an additional $200 bonus." $200, Jenny quickly calculated in her head. That was almost half a college class. If she won for several months, she could actually afford to take a course. "The special visitor coming this week will be evaluating our store's performance," Mr. Peterson added. "So I expect everyone to be on their best behavior and pushing those credit cards." After more details about the program, the meeting ended. Employees filed out to their registers, buzzing with excitement about the potential bonuses. $200, Tina said as they walked to their stations. "That would really help with your classes." "I know," Jenny replied. "I need to win that bonus." Bradley appeared beside them, straightening his name tag. "Don't get your hopes up, ladies. That bonus is practically mine already. I can sell anything to anyone." "We'll see about that," Jenny said, feeling unusually competitive. During a slow period before lunch, Mr. Peterson gathered the cashiers for a quick training on the credit card application process. They practiced what to say to customers and how to fill out the forms. Jenny rehearsed her sales pitch in her head. "Would you like to save 15% on your purchase today by applying for our Value Mart credit card?" At lunch, she and Tina practiced on each other. "You need to smile more when you say it," Tina suggested. "You look like you're asking them to donate a kidney." Jenny tried again, with a bigger smile. "Better?" "Much," Tina agreed. "You'll be signing people up in no time." After lunch, Jenny approached every customer with new enthusiasm. "Would you like to save 15% today by applying for our Value Mart credit card?" she asked again and again. Most people said no, but by the end of the day, she had signed up 3 customers. Bradley had 5, which he made sure everyone knew. "It's just the first day," Tina reassured her. "You'll catch up." As Jenny drove home that evening, she wasn't thinking about ramen or Netflix. She was calculating how many credit card sign-ups she would need to win that bonus. $5 per sign-up, plus the $200 bonus, she muttered. "I could have enough for a class by summer." For the first time in a long while, Jenny felt hopeful. This credit card program could be her ticket back to college. She would do whatever it took to win that bonus, even if it meant being a little more pushy with customers than she normally would be. The next day flew by in a blur of scanning items and asking about credit cards. Jenny signed up 4 more customers, but Bradley was still ahead with 7. "He's just getting the easy ones," Tina said during their lunch break. "The shoppers who buy big TVs and furniture. They always say yes to save money." "Maybe I should switch to the electronics department," Jenny joked. By Wednesday afternoon, Jenny was tired but determined. The store was getting busier as people finished work. Her line grew longer, and she tried to move quickly while still asking each person about the credit card. Around 4:30, while Jenny was scanning a mountain of groceries for a mom with twins, she noticed an older woman getting in line. The woman wasn't like most Value Mart shoppers. She wasn't in a hurry. She didn't have a cart full of stuff. She just held a small basket with a few items. When it was finally the woman's turn, Jenny got a better look at her. She was probably in her 60s, with gray hair pulled back in a simple bun. She wore plain clothes, jeans, a light blue button-up, shirt, and a beige cardigan that had seen better days. No makeup, no jewelry except a simple watch. Her purse was worn leather. Nothing fancy. "Find everything okay?" Jenny asked, her standard question. "Yes, thank you," the woman replied with a kind smile. Jenny started scanning her items: a loaf of bread, a quart of milk, a notebook, and a pack of pens. "Not much for a shopping trip." "That'll be $12.87, Jenny said, already thinking about the next customer. The woman opened her purse and took out a small wallet. From it, she pulled a credit card that immediately caught Jenny's attention. It wasn't the regular plastic card most people used. This one looked different, metallic and heavy-looking, with an unusual design. Despite being obviously old and a bit worn at the edges, it was like no card Jenny had seen before. Jenny stared at it. She knew about credit cards from her business, classes. This wasn't just any card. It was one of those super premium cards that only very wealthy people could get. The kind that had no spending limit and came with all sorts of special perks. But the card looked out of place in the hands of this plainly dressed woman. Jenny looked from the card to the woman's worn cardigan and scuffed purse. Before she could stop herself, Jenny let out a small laugh. "Did you find this in the trash or something?" she asked, only half joking. The woman's smile faded. She looked hurt but didn't say anything. Jenny turned to Tina at the next register. "Check out this card," she said, holding it up. "Doesn't match the outfit, does it?" Tina's eyes widened, and she shook her head slightly, trying to signal Jenny to stop. Jenny ignored the warning and slid the unusual card through the reader. The machine beeped with an error message. "Card not read. Please, try again." She tried. Again. Same error. "Maybe try one that actually works," Jenny suggested with a smirk. "We take regular cards too, you know. The kind normal people use." The woman's cheeks turned pink. She quietly put the card back in her wallet and pulled out some cash instead. "I'll pay with this," she said softly. As Jenny counted out the change, she continued. "That's probably better anyway. Those fancy cards are just for showing off. I bet the annual fee costs more than everything in your basket." The woman took her change and her small bag of purchases. "Thank you," she said politely, despite Jenny's comments. She walked away slowly, her shoulders slightly hunched. When she was gone, Tina leaned over. "Jenny, that wasn't nice," she whispered. "You don't know her story." "Come on," Jenny replied. "Did you see that card? It was totally fake or stolen or something. People like her don't have cards like that." "People like what?" Tina asked. Jenny shrugged. "You know, regular people, not rich people." The line moved forward, and more customers kept Jenny busy. But she couldn't help glancing toward the store exit, where the older woman was now talking to a security guard. They seemed to know each other. The woman smiled at something the guard said, then walked out the automatic doors. By closing time, Jenny had signed up 2 more credit card customers, bringing her daily total to 6. She was catching up to Bradley. Mr. Peterson gathered everyone before they left. "Remember, our special visitor will be here tomorrow," he reminded them. "Everyone needs to be on their best behavior. This could mean big things for our store." As Jenny drove home, she felt a mix of excitement about the credit, card bonuses, and a small twinge of guilt about the woman with the strange card. Maybe Tina was right. Maybe she had been too harsh. "It doesn't matter," Jenny told herself. "I'll never see her again anyway." She pushed the thought aside and focused instead on her growing tally of credit card sign-ups. 6 today, 3 yesterday, 4 the day before. She was getting closer to that bonus every day. Little did Jenny know that the woman with the unusual credit card would be back, and that their next meeting would change everything. The next morning, Jenny arrived at work on time again. She was getting better at this. As she clocked in, Tina was waiting for her. "Can we talk before we start?" Tina asked, looking serious. "Sure," Jenny replied. "Is something wrong?" They sat on the metal folding chairs in the corner of the break room. No one else was around yet. "It's about yesterday," Tina began. "That woman with the credit card." Jenny rolled her eyes. "Are you still thinking about that?" "You were really mean to her, Jenny," Tina said. "It wasn't like you." "I was just joking around," Jenny defended herself. "Besides, you have to admit it was weird. Someone dressed like that with a fancy card." Tina shook her head. "That's exactly what I'm talking about. You can't judge people by how they look or what they wear." "Oh, come on," Jenny said. "Like you. Never make jokes about customers with me." "We joke about what people buy sometimes, but we don't make fun of them to their faces," Tina pointed out. "And we never make them feel bad about themselves." Jenny felt a flash of guilt, but pushed it away. "It was just one customer. It's not a big deal." Tina looked at her with disappointment. "Remember when we were kids? Your family went through that. Rough time after your dad lost his job." Jenny stiffened. She didn't like thinking about those days. "You wore the same clothes to school for months," Tina continued. "Some kids made fun of you, but you still had your mom's nice watch she gave you for your birthday. How would you have felt if someone had accused you of stealing it?" The memory hit Jenny hard. She was 11 when her dad lost his factory job. For almost a year, her family had struggled to pay bills. They'd sold their nice house and moved to a small apartment. Jenny had grown several inches that year, but they couldn't afford new clothes. The watch had been her only nice possession. A gift from before everything went bad. "That was different," Jenny mumbled, but she knew it wasn't. "Just think about it," Tina said, patting her arm. "This credit card competition has everyone acting crazy. Don't lose yourself trying to win a bonus." Their conversation was cut short when other employees started filing into the break room. Mr. Peterson called everyone to attention for the morning meeting. "The special visitor will be here today," he announced. "I don't know exactly when, so everyone needs to be on their best behavior all day. Remember, this could mean promotions, raises, or even new positions for some of you." As they headed to their registers, Bradley sidled up to Jenny. "Heard you were rude to some old lady yesterday," he said with a smirk. "Mind your own business," Jenny snapped. "Just saying," Bradley continued. "You might want to be careful. For all you know, that could have been someone important." "An important person who buys milk and bread at Value Mart?" "Yeah, right," Jenny scoffed. Bradley shrugged. "Rich people do weird things. My uncle works security at that fancy hotel downtown. Says the richest guests often look the most ordinary. They don't need to show off." Jenny brushed him off, but his words stuck with her, adding to the guilt Tina had already stirred up. The morning passed quickly. Jenny was politer to customers than usual, still thinking about Tina's story about the poor watch. She signed up 5 people for credit cards before lunch, putting her neck and neck with Bradley. During her break, she checked her bank account on her phone. The balance was lower than she'd expected. Her car insurance payment had gone through, leaving barely enough for rent. She looked again at the college website, at the business classes she wanted to take, so close, yet still out of reach. By the end of her shift, Jenny had signed up a total of 8 customers for the day, her best yet. Mr. Peterson gathered everyone again. "Our visitor hasn't arrived yet," he said, looking disappointed. "They must be coming tomorrow. Everyone be on time in the morning." As Jenny was leaving, she counted her running total of credit card sign-ups for the week. 21 so far. Bradley had 23. Just 3 more to beat him, she thought. The bonus seemed within reach, but as she started her car, Jenny couldn't shake the memory Tina had brought up, of being that girl in worn-out clothes with one nice thing, of how it felt when others judged her without knowing her story. It's not the same, she told herself again. But deep down, she knew it was. That night, as she fell asleep, the face of the older woman with the unusual credit card drifted through her mind. There had been kindness in those eyes, even after Jenny's rude comments. Tomorrow would be another day, another chance to get ahead, another chance to do better. But sleep didn't come easily for Jenny that night. She tossed and turned in her small bed, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing by her apartment. At midnight, she gave up on sleep and sat up. Her room was small but neat. A dresser with a mirror, a nightstand with a lamp, a chair by the window where she sometimes sat to read. Not much, but it was hers. Jenny picked up her phone and opened her banking app again. The numbers hadn't changed since earlier. $342.18 in checking, $157.63 in savings. Rent was due next week, $600. Her next paycheck would cover it, but just barely. She switched to her student loan app. The number there made her stomach hurt, $15,743.22. The monthly payment was on pause right now, but it would start again soon. 2.5 years of college, she whispered to herself, and nothing to show for it. Jenny opened her laptop and pulled up the community college website again. The business classes stared back at her. Management 301, Marketing 250. Each one cost about $800 with books. She did the math in her head. If she won the $200 bonus for the next 3 months, plus the $5 per sign-up, she might have enough for one class by fall. It wasn't much, but it was something, a step forward, instead of standing still. Jenny closed her laptop and walked to the kitchen for a glass of water. The apartment was so quiet at night. Sometimes the silence made her think too much. She thought about the woman with the unusual credit card. The hurt in her eyes when Jenny had mocked her. The quiet dignity as she paid with cash instead. Then Jenny thought about herself at 11 years old. The too small clothes. The lunch she couldn't afford. The kids who whispered behind her. Back! Why didn't I remember how that felt? She asked herself. Her parents had struggled, but they never stopped being kind to others. Her mom always said, being poor is not the same as being poor in spirit. Her dad would add, how you treat people when you're down shows who you really are. Jenny hadn't thought about those lessons in a long time. Working at Value Mart, it was easy to see customers as just credit card sign-ups or problems to deal with, not as real people with their own struggles. She returned to bed and picked up a framed photo from her nightstand. It showed her family in happier times before her dad lost his job. They were at a park, all smiling. Jenny was wearing the watch her mom had given her, the one Tina had mentioned. Jenny put the photo down and tried to sleep again, but her mind kept racing. What if the woman really was someone important? What if she was connected to the special visitor? What if Jenny had ruined her chances at the bonus with one thoughtless comment, or worse? What if she was becoming someone her parents wouldn't recognize? Someone who cared more about money than being decent to others? Around 3 a.m., Jenny finally drifted off, but her sleep was troubled. She dreamed she was at Value Mart, but she was a customer, not a cashier. She was trying to buy something important, but her card kept getting declined. The cashier, who looked like Bradley, was laughing at her. Behind him stood the older woman with the unusual credit card, watching sadly. Jenny woke with a start at 6 a.m. before her alarm. The dream had felt so real. She lay in bed, thinking about the day ahead. The special visitor would be coming today. The credit card competition was heating up. The bonus was within reach. But suddenly, the bonus didn't seem as important as it had yesterday. What good was extra money if she had to be mean to earn it? Jenny got out of bed and headed for the shower. As the warm water flowed over her, she made a decision. Today would be different. She would still try to sign people up for cards, but she wouldn't be pushy. She wouldn't judge people by how they looked or what they bought. She would be the person her parents had raised her to be. As she got ready for work, Jenny felt lighter somehow. Whatever happened with the bonus or the special visitor, she would face it with integrity. And if she saw the woman with the unusual credit card again, she would apologize. Jenny arrived at Value Mart 30 minutes early the next morning. The parking lot was nearly empty, with just a few cars belonging to the early shift stockers. Inside, the store looked different. The floors were extra shiny, like they had been waxed overnight. Every shelf was perfectly organized. Even the shopping carts were lined up with military precision. "Wow," Jenny said out loud. Someone had worked very hard to make everything perfect. In the break room, Mr. Peterson was already there, pacing back and forth. He wore a new tie and had gotten a haircut. When he saw Jenny, his eyebrows shot up. "Parker? You're early." "Yes, sir," Jenny replied. "I wanted to be ready for the special visitor." Mr. Peterson nodded approvingly. "Good. Very good. We need everyone at their best today." More employees arrived. Everyone looked extra neat. Hair combed, uniforms pressed, name tags polished. The excitement in the air was almost visible. At 8:01 sharp, Mr. Peterson called everyone together. Even the stockers and the deli workers joined the meeting. "Today is the day," he announced. "Our special visitor from corporate headquarters will be here sometime today. We don't know exactly when, so we need to be ready all day." He paced as he talked, his voice higher than usual. "This visit could mean big things for our store. We're being considered for the new Value Mart Plus program. Only 10 stores in the country will be chosen." A murmur of excitement spread through the room. Value Mart Plus would mean a bigger store, more departments, and more positions. More positions means promotions, Mr. Peterson continued. And promotions mean higher pay. Jenny's heart beat faster. Higher pay could help her get back to college sooner. "Everyone will wear these special name tags today," Mr. Peterson said, holding up a shiny gold tag instead of the usual blue ones. "And remember to mention our new credit card to every customer." As they filed out, each employee received a gold name tag. Jenny pinned hers to her shirt carefully. "You look like you actually slept," Tina commented as they walked to their registers. "Not really," Jenny admitted. "But I did some thinking." "About what?" "About the woman yesterday." "You were right. I was mean to her, and I shouldn't have been." Tina smiled. "That's the Jenny I know." As the store opened, customers began trickling in. Jenny greeted each one with a genuine smile. She still mentioned the credit card, but she didn't push when people said no. By lunchtime, she had signed up 3 customers. Not as many as yesterday, but it felt better doing it the right way. "The visitor still hasn't come," Tina said during their break. "Mr. Peterson is about to explode from stress." Jenny laughed. Their manager had been running around all morning, straightening displays that were already straight, and greeting customers with almost scary enthusiasm. "Who do you think it'll be?" Jenny asked. "Probably some corporate big shot in a fancy suit," Tina replied. "Maybe it's the CEO," Bradley said, joining their conversation uninvited. "Elizabeth Wilson herself." Jenny had heard the name in training videos. Elizabeth Wilson had started as a cashier 30 years ago and worked her way up to become CEO of the entire ValueMart Corporation. She was famous for visiting stores incognito to see how they really operated. "Yeah, right," Tina said. "She's way too busy to come to Millfield." Bradley shrugged. "You never know." The afternoon was busier. A school bus had broken down nearby, and many of the students and teachers came into the store while waiting for repairs. Jenny's line was constant. She helped an elderly man find the right change in his wallet. She entertained a fussy toddler while his mom paid. She carefully bagged a woman's eggs and bread so they wouldn't get crushed. At 3:30, she signed up her fourth credit card customer of the day, a young man buying supplies for his first apartment. She explained the terms clearly and didn't pressure him. He seemed genuinely happy with the 15% discount. "Nice job," said a voice behind her. It was Mr. Peterson, looking more stressed than ever. "Keep it up. The visitor could be here any minute." By around 5 and the anticipation in the store had reached a peak. Every employee jumped whenever the front doors opened, but still, no special visitor appeared. "Maybe they're not coming today either," Tina whispered, as they stood at their registers. "Mr. Peterson will have a heart attack if they don't," Jenny replied. Just then, the front doors slid open. Everyone looked up expectantly. But it was just a regular customer, the older woman with the unusual credit card. Jenny's stomach tightened. Here was her chance to apologize. But the woman was heading toward the other side of the store, not toward Jenny's register. "That's her," Jenny said to Tina. "From yesterday." "Are you going to talk to her?" Tina asked. Jenny nodded. "I have to apologize, but I can't leave my register." "Go," Tina said. "I'll cover for you. Just make it quick before Peterson sees." Heart pounding, Jenny stepped away from her register and headed across the store, hoping to make things right before the woman left, and still completely unaware that the special visitor had already arrived. Jenny walked quickly through the store, looking for the older woman. She spotted her in the office supplies aisle, comparing two different notebooks. As Jenny approached, she felt nervous. What if the woman was still angry? What if she complained to management? But Jenny knew she needed to make things right. "Excuse me," Jenny said softly. The woman looked up. Recognition flickered in her eyes, but she didn't look angry. "Hello again," she said with a small smile. "I wanted to apologize for yesterday," Jenny said, the words tumbling out quickly. "I was rude about your credit card, and I made assumptions, and I shouldn't have done that. It was wrong, and I'm really sorry." The woman studied Jenny's face for a moment, then nodded. "Apology accepted." "Thank you for saying that." Jenny felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "I've been feeling terrible about it. I don't know why I said those things." "We all have bad days," the woman said kindly. "I've certainly had mine." "Still, it wasn't right," Jenny insisted. "My parents raised me better than that." The woman smiled more warmly now. "They did a good job then. It takes character to admit when you're wrong." Jenny noticed the woman was buying more items today. Several. Notebooks, pens, sticky notes, and a few small gift bags with tissue paper. "Can I help you find anything else?" Jenny offered. "Actually, yes," the woman replied. "I need some thank you cards for people who have been especially helpful." Jenny led her to the greeting card aisle. "These are our nicest ones," she said, pointing to a display. "And they're on sale this week." "Perfect," the woman said, selecting a box. "Are you a student?" she asked, noticing Jenny looking at some college-themed cards nearby. "I was," Jenny answered. "Business major. I'm hoping to go back and finish my degree soon." "Business is a good field," the woman said. "What area interests you most?" "Management," Jenny replied. I'd like to run my own company someday." They talked for a few more minutes about business, classes, and career goals. Jenny was surprised by how knowledgeable the woman was about business topics. "I should get back to my register," Jenny said finally. "But thank you for accepting my apology." "I appreciate you making it," the woman replied. "I'll check out shortly." When Jenny returned to her register, Tina gave her a questioning look. "It went fine," Jenny said. "She was really nice about it." "That's good," Tina replied. "Bradley was looking for you. He says he's up to 36 credit card sign-ups now." Jenny had almost forgotten about the competition. "How many do I have?" 31. I think 5 behind." Jenny felt a flicker of the old competitive spirit, but it wasn't as strong as before. Somehow, making things right with the woman felt more important than winning the bonus. About 10 minutes later, the woman got in Jenny's line again. She had added candy and a few small toys to her purchases. "Gifts for my grandchildren," she explained, seeing Jenny's curious look. "I don't see them as often as I'd like." Jenny smiled and scanned the items. When it came time to pay, the woman pulled out the same unusual credit card. "Are you sure?" Jenny asked. "It didn't work yesterday." "Let's try again," the woman suggested. "Sometimes the machines have bad days too." Jenny carefully slid the card through the reader. This time, the machine beeped happily and printed a receipt. "It worked!" she said, surprised. As she handed the receipt for signature, Jenny glanced at the name on the card. Elizabeth W. The last name was partially worn away. Something stirred in Jenny's memory. Hadn't Bradley mentioned someone named Elizabeth? "Thanky you for your help," the woman, Elizabeth, said as she gathered her bags. "It's nice to see a young person with goals. I hope you get to finish your degree soon." "Thanks," Jenny replied. "Have a nice day." As Elizabeth walked away, Mr. Peterson's voice came urgently over the store speakers. "Attention all staff. Our special visitor will be arriving any minute. Everyone to their stations, please." Employees scurried around, straightening displays and checking their appearance one last time. The front doors opened, and everyone looked up eagerly. A man in a suit walked in, looking important with his briefcase and stern expression. Mr. Peterson practically ran to greet him, shaking his hand vigorously. "That must be the visitor," Tina whispered to Jenny. They watched as Mr. Peterson led the man around the store, pointing out features and introducing him to employees. When they approached the registers, Mr. Peterson called out, "Everyone, this is Mr. Davis from corporate headquarters." The employees all smiled and nodded. Mr. Davis barely acknowledged them, checking something on his clipboard instead. "He doesn't seem very friendly," Tina muttered. "Maybe he's just focused on business," Jenny replied, remembering her own career. Goals. After the brief introduction, Mr. Peterson led Mr. Davis to the store office. The door closed behind them, and everyone relaxed slightly. "Well, that was anticlimactic," Bradley said, passing by Jenny's register. "I thought the CEO was coming." "The CEO?" Jenny laughed. "Why would Elizabeth Wilson come to our store?" "I heard Peterson talking to someone on the phone," Bradley insisted. "He definitely said Ms. Wilson and looking forward to your visit." Jenny froze. "Elizabeth W., the knowledgeable woman interested in business. The unusual premium credit card that only top executives would have." "What did you say the CEO's full name was?" Jenny asked slowly. "Elizabeth Wilson," Bradley replied. "She started as a cashier," Jenny finished, her heart sinking. "And now she visits stores incognito." It couldn't be. But deep down, Jenny knew it was true. The woman she had mocked, then apologized to, was Elizabeth Wilson, the CEO of Value Mart. and she had just signed the receipt with the same signature that appeared on Jenny's paychecks. Jenny felt like the floor was tilting beneath her feet. The woman she had mocked, then apologized to, was Elizabeth Wilson, CEO of Value Mart, and the special visitor everyone had been waiting for. "Are you okay?" Tina asked, noticing Jenny's pale face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," Jenny whispered. "That woman! The one with the credit card! I think she's the CEO." "What?" Tina's eyes widened. "Elizabeth Wilson? Are you sure?" The name on her card was Elizabeth W., and Bradley said Peterson was expecting Ms. Wilson, Jenny explained. "Plus, she knows a lot about business, and her card finally worked, and—" "But Mr. Davis is the visitor," Tina interrupted, pointing toward the office. "Maybe he works for her. Or maybe there are two visitors." Jenny's mind raced. "I need to find her before she leaves." Just then, the office door opened. Mr. Peterson emerged with Mr. Davis, both looking serious. They walked directly to the customer service desk where Elizabeth Wilson was waiting, looking much more businesslike now. "There she is," Jenny whispered to Tina. "With Peterson and Davis?" They watched as Mr. Peterson shook Elizabeth's hand, his expression a mix of respect and nervousness. Mr. Davis handed her a folder, which she reviewed carefully. "She really is the CEO," Tina said in awe. "And you." "I know," Jenny groaned, remembering her rude comments. "I insulted the boss of the AB entire company." "But you also apologized," Tina reminded her. "That counts for something." The three of them, Elizabeth, Mr. Peterson, and Mr. Davis, began walking through the store, stopping occasionally to make notes or speak to employees. Jenny's heart pounded harder as they approached the registers. "What do I do?" she asked Tina desperately. "Be professional," Tina advised. "You already apologized. Just do your job." When they reached the checkout area, Mr. Peterson lined up all the cashiers. Jenny stood straight, trying to look confident despite her racing heart. "These are our frontline team members," Mr. Peterson said proudly. "They've been doing an excellent job with the new credit card program." Elizabeth Wilson nodded, her eyes moving from one cashier to the next. When her gaze met Jenny's, there was a flicker of recognition, but she didn't say anything about their previous interactions. "I'd like to speak with a few of your employees individually," Elizabeth said to Mr. Peterson, "to get a feel for the store culture." "Of course, Ms. Wilson," he replied eagerly. "Anyone in particular?" Elizabeth scanned the line again, then pointed. "Her." She was pointing at Jenny. Mr. Peterson looked surprised but nodded quickly. "Parker is one of our newer cashiers, but she's been doing well with the credit cards. You can use my office for privacy." Jenny's legs felt like jelly as she followed Elizabeth and Mr. Peterson to the office. Tina gave her an encouraging thumbs up. Bradley looked jealous. Other employees stared in confusion, wondering why Jenny had been selected. Mr. Peterson opened his office door. "Take as much time as you need, Ms. Wilson." "Thank you," Elizabeth replied. "Mr. Davis and I will be making our decision shortly." Jenny entered the office, and Elizabeth closed the door behind them. For a moment, neither spoke. Jenny stood awkwardly while Elizabeth took a seat behind the desk. "Please sit down," Elizabeth said, gesturing to the chair across from her. Jenny sat, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "Ms. Wilson, I want to apologize again for—" Elizabeth held up her hand. "We've already addressed that. I accepted your apology, and I meant it." "Thank you," Jenny said, relieved but confused. "But why did you want to talk to me?" Elizabeth leaned forward. "I visit stores incognito for a reason. I want to see how employees really behave, not how they act when they know the boss is watching. Jenny winced. And I failed that test spectacularly. Actually, Elizabeth said with a small smile, you did something more interesting. You made a mistake, recognized it, and took steps to fix it without being told to do so. That shows character. Jenny blinked in surprise. You're not angry? I was disappointed yesterday, Elizabeth admitted. But your apology today was sincere, and our conversation about your education goals was illuminating. She opened a folder on the desk. You mentioned you're studying business management. Tell me more about that. Jenny hesitated, then began talking about her classes, her goals, the financial struggles that had forced her to pause her education. Elizabeth listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions. Why Value Mart? Elizabeth asked finally. With your goals, why work here? Honestly? Because they worked around my class schedule and it's close to my apartment, Jenny admitted. But I've learned a lot about retail operations and customer service. Elizabeth nodded, making a note in her folder. Then she looked at Jenny directly. I have one more question. If you were in my position, what would you do about an employee who made a mistake like yours? Jenny took a deep breath. This felt like a test, one she couldn't afford to fail. I'd want to know if they understood what they did wrong, she began slowly. Anyone can make a mistake, but learning from it is what matters. She thought about her own experience over the last few days. I'd also look at their overall work. One bad moment shouldn't erase months of good service. Elizabeth nodded, encouraging her to continue. But, Jenny added, I wouldn't ignore it either. Actions have consequences. Maybe not firing, but some kind of, I don't know, training or something, to help them do better next time. Elizabeth smiled, looking pleased with the answer. Very thoughtful. Many executives would simply fire someone to set an example. That doesn't seem fair, Jenny replied, or smart. Training someone new costs more than helping a good employee improve. Elizabeth's eyebrows rose. You really have been studying business. She closed her folder and leaned back in the chair. For a moment, she seemed to be considering something. Then she made a decision. Let me tell you a story, Jenny, she said. About 30 years ago, I was a cashier at a Value Mart store much like this one. Jenny's eyes widened. She'd heard that Elizabeth Wilson had started at the bottom, but hearing it directly from her made it real. I was working to pay for college, Elizabeth continued. Business degree, just like you. I had big dreams, but not much money. Jenny nodded. This sounded very familiar. One day, our regional manager visited the store. He wasn't impressed with me, said I was too focused on efficiency and not enough on customer connections. He was right. Elizabeth smiled at the memory. But instead of writing me up, he took me aside and asked about my goals. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the store floor. When I told him about my business degree, he created a special training program for me. Part-time management experience while I finished school. It changed my life. Elizabeth turned back to Jenny. That regional manager saw potential in me, even when I made mistakes. He's the reason I visit stores personally, to find those employees with potential. Jenny's heart beat faster. Was Elizabeth Wilson saying what she thought she was saying? Value Mart is starting a new education program, Elizabeth explained. We're paying for employees to finish their degrees while working part-time. Education in exchange for a 2-year commitment to the company after graduation. That sounds amazing, Jenny said sincerely. We're testing it in select stores, Elizabeth continued. The Value Mart Plus locations, the ones Mr. Davis and I are choosing this week. She sat on the edge of the desk. Millfield is on our short list. The store performs well, and the staff seems committed. Jenny thought about her co-workers, Tina's friendliness, even Bradley's competitive spirit. They were a good team, despite everything. But there's something else I look for, Elizabeth added. Employees who would benefit from the education program. People with goals and the character to achieve them. She opened her folder again and pulled out a document. This is an application for the pilot program. I'd like you to be our first participant. Jenny stared at the paper, unable to speak. Her name was already printed on it. Me? She finally managed. But I was rude to you. Yes, you were, Elizabeth agreed. And then you recognized your mistake, apologized sincerely, and showed genuine regret. That tells me more about your character than a single bad moment. She handed Jenny the application. You reminded me of myself at your age, smart, determined, sometimes too focused on the wrong things, but able to learn and grow. Jenny took the paper with trembling hands. I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it, Elizabeth replied. It's a full scholarship for your remaining business classes, plus part-time work in our management training program. After graduation, you'd start as an assistant manager at one of our stores. Jenny's mind raced through the possibilities. No more student loans, a real career path, the chance to finish her degree while earning money. There is one condition, Elizabeth added. You must promise to treat all customers with respect, no matter how they look or what they buy. Remember what it feels like to be judged unfairly. Jenny nodded earnestly. I promise. I've already learned that lesson. Good, Elizabeth said. Because in retail, everyone has a story. The woman in worn clothes might be a CEO. The man buying cat food might be grieving a loss. The teen counting pennies might be a future business leader. Like you were, Jenny said softly. And like I want to be. Elizabeth smiled. Exactly. Now, let's go tell Mr. Peterson about the Value Mart Plus decision. I think he might be having a heart attack waiting out there. As they stood to leave, Jenny realized something. You already had this planned, didn't you? Before I even apologized. Elizabeth's eyes twinkled. Let's just say I saw potential. Even when you were mocking my credit card, sometimes the people who make mistakes have the most room to grow. She opened the office door, where Mr. Peterson was indeed waiting anxiously. After all, Elizabeth added quietly, it worked out pretty well for me. Mr. Peterson straightened his tie when he saw them. Ms. Wilson, I hope your conversation was productive? Very, Elizabeth replied with a smile. Jenny has provided valuable insights about the store. Is Mr. Davis still here? Yes, ma'am. He's reviewing our sales reports in the conference room. Excellent. Please gather all staff for an announcement in 15 minutes, Elizabeth instructed. In the main aisle by customer service. Mr. Peterson hurried off, practically running, to the intercom system. Jenny stood awkwardly beside Elizabeth, still processing everything that had happened. Are you okay? Elizabeth asked. Just overwhelmed, Jenny admitted. Yesterday I thought I might get fired for being rude to a customer. Today I'm being offered a scholarship. It doesn't feel real. Life can change quickly, Elizabeth said. I remember how I felt when I got my first opportunity. Excited, scared, not quite believing it. They walked together toward the conference room. Employees stared as they passed. Jenny could hear the whispers, That's her. The CEO. Why is she with Jenny? What's going on? In the conference room, Mr. Davis was reviewing documents. He looked up when they entered. "All set, Miss Wilson?" "Yes. Millfield will be our next Value Mart Plus location," Elizabeth confirmed. "And I've selected our first education program participant." Mr. Davis nodded, making notes. "I'll prepare the paperwork. The board will be pleased with this location. Think of BT. You, Robert," Elizabeth said. "Please join us for the announcement." Over the next few minutes, employees gathered in the center of the store. Tina caught Jenny's eye and mouthed, "What's happening?" Jenny just shrugged, not wanting to say anything before the official announcement. When everyone was assembled, Mr. Peterson called for attention. "Everyone, please welcome Ms. Elizabeth Wilson, CEO of Value Mart Corporation." A murmur ran through the crowd as Elizabeth stepped forward. Some employees looked shocked to realize the simply dressed woman was actually the CEO. "Thank you all for your hard work," Elizabeth began. "As you know, Value Mart is launching a new concept called Value Mart Plus. These enhanced stores will offer more departments, more services, and more opportunities for both customers and employees." She paused, looking around at the eager faces. "After careful consideration, I'm pleased to announce that Millfield has been selected as our next Value Mart Plus location." Cheers erupted from the staff. Mr. Peterson looked like he might faint from happiness. "Construction will begin next month," Elizabeth continued when the noise died down. "The store will remain open during renovations. When completed, we'll need additional staff, including several new management positions." More excited whispers spread through the crowd. "Along with the Value Mart Plus program, we're launching a new employee education initiative," Elizabeth explained. "This program will provide full scholarships for employees to complete their college degrees while working part-time. After graduation, these employees will move directly into management roles." She gestured for Jenny to join her. Feeling every eye on her, Jenny stepped forward. "I'm pleased to announce our first participant in this program," Elizabeth said, placing a hand on Jenny's shoulder. "Jenny Parker will be completing her business degree while training in our management program." The employees applauded. Tina cheered loudly. Even Bradley looked impressed. If a bit jealous, Mr. Peterson handed Elizabeth a large envelope, which she presented to Jenny. "This contains your scholarship information and management training schedule. Mr. Peterson will be your mentor during the program." Jenny took the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a certificate with her name, signed at the bottom by Elizabeth Wilson, the same signature that appeared on her paychecks. "Would you like to say a few words?" Elizabeth asked Jenny quietly. Jenny hadn't prepared anything, but she stepped forward anyway. Looking at her coworkers, she took a deep breath. "Thank you for this amazing opportunity," she began. "I promise to work hard and make Value Mart proud." She paused, then decided to be completely honest. "Some of you might be wondering why I was chosen. The truth is, I made a mistake earlier this week. I was rude to a customer based on how they looked." Jenny glanced at Elizabeth, who nodded encouragingly. "That customer was Ms. Wilson, though I didn't know it at the time. I judged her by her appearance and said things I shouldn't have." A shocked murmur ran through the crowd. Bradley's mouth fell open. "But instead of firing me, Ms. Wilson gave me a chance to learn from my mistake," Jenny continued. "She taught me that everyone has a story we don't know, and everyone deserves respect." She looked directly at Elizabeth now. "I've learned that lesson, and I won't forget it. Thank you for seeing potential in me, even when I was at my worst." Elizabeth smiled warmly. "That's what good leaders do. They see the best in people, even when people aren't at their best." After the announcement, employees came to congratulate Jenny and meet Elizabeth. Tina gave Jenny a huge hug. "I told you that woman was someone important," she laughed. "You were right," Jenny admitted. "I should have listened." As the excitement continued, Jenny noticed Elizabeth checking her watch and preparing to leave. She hurried over to say goodbye. "Thank you again," Jenny said sincerely. "I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Elizabeth replied. "Remember what we talked about. Everyone has a story." "I will," Jenny promised. As Elizabeth turned to go, a thought struck Jenny. "Ms. Wilson, can I ask you something? Why did you come to our store specifically? Was it just random?" Elizabeth paused, a mysterious smile crossing her face. "Nothing is truly random, Jenny. I had my reasons for visiting Millfield." She glanced around to make sure no one was listening, then leaned closer. "Check the last page in your scholarship packet when you get home. I think you'll find it interesting." With that cryptic remark, Elizabeth Wilson said her goodbyes to the staff and departed with Mr. Davis. That evening, alone in her apartment, Jenny opened the envelope again. Behind all the paperwork was a faded photograph she'd never seen before, of her mother as a young woman, standing next to a younger Elizabeth Wilson. On the back was written, "Sisters always find their way back to each other. Welcome to the family, niece." Jenny stared at the photo in shock, suddenly understanding everything. Elizabeth Wilson wasn't just her boss, she was her aunt. Thanks for joining us for this heartwarming story about judgment, forgiveness, and unexpected connections. I hope it reminds us all that everyone we meet is fighting their own battles and deserves our kindness. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story about Jenny and Elizabeth, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more touching stories that might just change your perspective. Remember, a small act of kindness can make a big difference in someone's day. You never know who might be watching. Until next time, spread kindness wherever you go.